So for the second month in a row, we are only covering 10 items for the best of list. This is not because there was a lack of interest in September, but more that I like the idea of paring down the list to the 10 most effective items, making specific choices that are unique to my own taste, and then giving a short list here of other things that would be interest to a wide variety of people. I think that if you're a fan of melodic black metal and unique takes on that, bands like Aetheric, Dreamless Veil, Flight of Sleipnir, and others would be interesting to you. And if you're a fan of unique black metal in general, Vaphirlogi, Tiema, and some of these other groups would also fill that void. Generally, my selection this month was pulled from a lot of traditional heavy metal, some doom metal, and black metal and death metal of various different types. This month the selection was vast and overall pretty interesting, and as always I appreciate bands and labels that will that get in touch and share their music and try to have a conversation about it. I really appreciate that there are people that aren't acting like robots without being too demanding in the process. So I appreciate that. Otherwise, we'll just get to the top 10 here. And we'll start with Eluctadolo's Lux. This is a pretty remarkable band who's had a really interesting career in terms of being an instrumental group founded by folks from the French black metal scene who have touched upon everything from noise rock to occult rock to different psychedelic jams to harsh noise even in the start. They've really carved out a unique groove for themselves over the years, but it's been a long time since their last record. And the thing about this one is it's one of their best. It technically continues down the path of their previous two records, but I feel like this one is really doing something new, where I feel like the last two were sort of iterative of each other. They were over a similar idea split into two big works, and this one is its own continuous flow through an idea that is one of their more remarkable jams. And this is the kind of band where you really should experience this band live, or at least watch a live performance to get an idea of just how cool they are and the whole experience. It's either it's for you or it's not, but for me this is particularly my kind of thing. At number 9, we have Adorior's Blood on My Teeth. Now, this is a heavy metal influenced black death metal band with a lot of thrash metal influence in their sound. They've been around for quite a long time, since the 90s, and you'll find that all of their work is extremely consistent in the sense that it is just packed with riffs and thrashing riffs that are more aggressive with each record, and they might have changed guitarists and some of the lineup has changed, but the spirit of Adorior is fully there and it's fully aggressive, and I think this record really kind of shocked me. So if you're a fan of maybe the third Absu record or early Impiety or even just Angel Corpse, there's a lot to like about this band and their record, but they'll throw you a curveball on every record. There's something different about each one, and the vocalist has a really strong personality, so it makes it memorable and worth checking into, even if you're just there for the riffs. They've got them and throughout the entire record. At this point, I think I sort of finally realized that every Horner record is different for a reason, and it's not just the lineup, it's because they're looking to do something different with each one. That's kind of the major note to take away from this record. It attempts to be a concept album centered around a romanticist poem from quite a long time ago, and I think that sort of passionate, disaffected feeling of the poem translates really well into this music, which is a little bit new for Horna, but also distinctly theirs. There's something very kind of modern sounding about this record. They've got a cleaner production value, which probably better sounding than anything they put out to date. And I think the whole curation of the whole record, it makes it feel like something special and important, from the art curation to the production values to the concept behind it. Horn have always presented something that was valuable to black metal in general, and especially Finnish black metal. But I think this record feels like it went for quality over style points, and I think that it's cool to hear that from this band, because sometimes they vary between something that is cool and something that is substantive, and I think this kind of has both going for it. I really enjoyed this record, and I think it's worth talking about this month. Yeah, earlier this month, when I reviewed the Satan album, somebody wrote into me and left a comment saying, "I hope the money is worth it that you got paid off to say this record is good." And they said, "Oh, what a washed up band, all this stuff." There are some complete psychopaths on the internet, and I don't give a shit what they think. I've been a fan of this band for quite a long time. It is one of my favorite bands, and of course that brings a bias to everything I do. But the thing is that this is a good record. It's a very musical record. There's a lot of catchy songs on it. It's heavy metal, it's heavy rock, and they're kind of having fun with it, but they're breaching serious topics with it. And if you get the signature of Satan and you enjoy their work in the past, you're probably going to like this record. Now, does it have a rough production value? All of their records do in some sense. They've all been created either DIY or in a very earnest sense, in modest terms in many cases. And I think that if you go back, even back to 2013 or so, that was a pretty rough sounding record for the time too. But it's still one of my favorites from that year. So that'll be the case with this too. I'm just a diehard fan of the band, and I would just generally always recommend that you check out their latest record, Songs in Crimson included.
Within your apathy, a man with gifted sight captured you under his spell, summoned into danger.
Exhaust is the latest full-length album from Piran, a New York City-based technical death metal band who have very strong influences from metallic hardcore, mathcore, and noise rock. I think noise rock is the one to emphasize here, because there's a sort of chaotic, miserable feeling to a lot of this record. It really is getting it out. It really is releasing a lot of frustration, and it has a lot to say about the state of society and the machinations of humanity and society as in general. And I think it's just an exciting record. It's a unexpected album. It's got something fresh around every corner, and it feels like they broke loose of what they were doing in the past. I really love their 2014 record. It's what made me a fan, and so I feel like this one is that extra step up beyond the last two. And so I just feel like my fandom kind of kicked back in when I heard this record, because this is still a band that feels vital and intelligent, but also obscurant, and they're willing to be avant-garde, even if it means being decidedly different from anything else out there. So I found a lot of value in that, and I'd recommend it highly. The main reason that I found Phaeton's Wielder of the Steel a compelling heavy metal record was mostly because of the songwriting. There is a great taste in a lot of the diction of the vocals. There's an epic heavy metal style here that is appreciable. There are great riffs all over this record, and the intricacy of the songwriting is really what tied me into it and kept me coming back to it so often. I think there's a specific taste that I have in epic heavy metal that needs to tell a story, but not a typical one. And I feel like this record goes out of its way to bring an interesting story into every song, or just say something that is so classic you can't really deny the effect of it. And there's an extra darkness to it, and that just comes with the muscle memory of being a lot of extreme metal musicians involved. And so that appeals to me as well. Overall, I think just a great record and well deserving of number 5 here on the list. Dreams of the Disturbed is the long-awaited second full-length album from Coffin Rot. This Portland, Oregon-based death metal band have really just been a kind of a talent ever since they started. Their first demo tape was among a lot of really great demo tapes back in like the 2019 era or so, and they've always delivered really well to that same level, escalating with each release upon this classic old school death metal sound, and not a fully typical sound, but something that is still familiar in every case. So for this second record, The big boon here is that the production values are intense. They're very good. This is a very good sounding death metal record. And to top it off, they have a ton of riffs going on throughout this whole thing. The thing is that they make everyone count. And I was trying to communicate this as well as I could in the review. When I say an economy of riffs, I mean they pick the good ones and they just fire them off one after another to the point that they've built a song that makes sense. And that's not something that a lot of death metal fans can do either way. They're either lacking in the riff ideas or they're lacking in the general sense of what a song is. And I think this band gets it right for just knowing how to put a damn song together, but also to have great riffs to back it up. It's a very classic sounding thing. And we throw around the references to classic death metal so often. You might forget that the people back then who were writing songs in the 80s and 90s were good at it. And I think this is a rare example of a band in death metal today that is good at death metal. So that counts for a lot for me, and I love the record. It was just solid throughout. So I definitely get a little bit tongue-tied talking about Spite's The Third Temple. This is the second full-length album from this black metal band, and they describe their sound as pure black metal, but of course it's more than that. It's built from a foundation of like early Slayer and Mayhem, and there's a lot of classic black thrashing sound going around in there. And so traditionally you would lump this band in with like Funereal Presence and Negative Plane in terms of the way that they present themselves and the thrashing, aggressive, and narrative nature of the work. And I think that really stands here because this is I think it's a 68-minute record with something like 13 songs. So there's a lot that really goes into this album, and these 4 to 5 minute songs are all packed with riffs. And that's the big thing here. It's like the presentation, the narration, the strength of the vocals, and overall the darkness of the record is one thing. But the fact that every song has riffs and memorable riffs and great leads that carry you through each song, that's something that is particularly special. And I think it comes from not only a love for thrash metal and black metal of a certain era, but also just knowing the structure of heavy metal and what really appeals to the heavy metal fan. And I think that's kind of why Spite have always caught on with me, because there's an extra sensibility there that understands how to write a song that will hook into mind, and it's something they can iterate obviously hear really well throughout. So fantastic record. Couldn't praise it enough, and I didn't see enough people talking about it.
Gaze upon my throne, on the altar bed, riveting challenge, as my lady said.
The latest full-length album from Berlin, Germany-based technical death metal band, or avant-garde death metal band, Ingurgitating Oblivion. Ontology of Naught is pure abstraction. It's something completely outside of time and place. It is something beyond a lot of people might have said they were kind of in the Gorgut school of death metal in the past, but this is further abstraction. This is broken and shattered on the floor and put together into a concrete melange of things. It's very unique in the way that it puts together not only the actual death metal and the aggression of the album, but also the way they've got chorales feeding into it. They've got unique rhythmic timing. There's a certain zombified quality to some of the movement here, and all of it works together in a virtuosic progressive metal style. There's a lot of jazz fusion infused in a lot of these rhythms too. So it sounds like a car crash, and I think and I don't mean in description, it actually does sound like a car crash of elements, but it works as an experience because it keeps the mind working. And the more times I listen to it, the more I got a sense of the general amorphous shape of this record, the more I saw the brilliance of its composition and the effect that it brought over the course of time. So I think that's valuable. It's something very different and worth talking about here. Of course, course, there was no other choice for the #1 slot here, with Siderian Spilling the Astral Chalice. This sophomore full-length album from this Slovenian band is one of the best records of this year. There's only a few things that I've heard this year that stack up next to it, and I think the balance of primal aggression, obscure and dissonant ideas, as well as headier progressive ideas and song and elements that come out from outside of the death metal sphere, all add up to a legacy for this band, whether from their time as Teleport all the way up to now as Siderian, and now getting deeper into their new discography. I feel like this band has really proven themselves with this record to be substantial, to be challenging, but also musical. And it's just the kind of record where you're going on a trip with it. And that's my favorite sort of death metal record, where they aren't just putting on a show, they're guiding you along and challenging you with new ideas and textures and sounds as they do it. It's not pure pleasure, but it's also not a horrible mess either. So I think it's a very unique record, and stands out very much in 2021, where a lot of records seem to lack compelling purpose. So that is the #1 for me, and definitely check that out above all else.